Hi, Malcolm Torres here. Today I'm really excited because I get to talk to you about a book that is clearly one of the top 5 best sea stories that I've ever read. And the book that I'm talking about is Shadow Divers by Robert Kurson. There's so many great things going on in this book that it's a little hard to approach it. You've got scuba diving, which is fascinating to me. I have been a scuba diver for many years. I've been diving in the Philippines, Hawaii, California, as well as the Florida Keys, off the coast of New Jersey and North Carolina, and even been diving in the Mediterranean. And I'm a recreational diver, and it's exciting to go scuba diving. But this book has got like scuba diving that's over the top with like really high level, not commercial diving, but like the top elite sport diving and recreational diving that you'll read about. Really dangerous and pretty high tech situations. So that was exciting to read about that. And then also World War II history, German U-boats, sunk and off the coast of New Jersey. So that's fascinating. And then just the Atlantic Ocean and the climate conditions, and mainly really this story is mainly character driven. The main characters in the book are just these fascinating guys that grew up in the New York, New Jersey area, and they just got heavily into scuba diving and stumbled across this wreck that nobody knew about and ended up solving one of the last secrets of World War II through their own research and their own investigation. So, as I say, no spoilers. So let's take it from the top. The two main characters in this book are a guy named John Chatterton and Richie Kohler. And they grow up in the New York, New Jersey area, and they're heavily into boats and scuba diving. And they're kind of over the top as far as scuba diving goes. They're members of these elite kind of clubs in the New York, New Jersey area, and they go diving on these really deep wrecks that are off the coast there. And they are, kind of competitive about it, seeing who can go down to the deepest depths and get artifacts from these wrecks. And one of them finds out about what is an anomaly on the bottom of the ocean in a very deep area, about 60 miles off the coast of New Jersey, and goes down there and finds a wreck. And they're not even sure what it is because it's all got just like sediment and barnacles and stuff, all kind of growing all over it, and just lichen, and it's just all rusted and corroded, and they can't even really tell what it is. And it turns out they get some pictures of it, and they do some study, and they figure out that it's a World War II German submarine that was sunk. It obviously has a hole blown in the side of it. And then they go and they check out the Naval archives, and they start talking to people, and there is not supposed to be a sub in this area. Like, it makes no sense, right? So they end up spending 6 years of their lives going down, diving on this wreck multiple times in really hairy, dangerous situations. And they go to Washington, and they go to Germany, and they look through all these naval archives, and they figure out what sub it is. And it really truly is like they solve one of the secrets that was remaining from World War II. So another element to this book that I think is really cool, and I think a lot of people that would like this book would really be into, is the whole like the World War II in the Atlantic, the Germans, the Allies, the Wolfpack submarines, and all of the danger and horror that they brought to the war against the U.S. So a lot of people don't know this, but there were really horrible German U-boat attacks, like literally a mile or two off the coast of the United States during World War II. There were ships that left Beaufort, North Carolina, and were sunk right there by the Germans, right off the coast. And you can go scuba diving on those ships today. But this, interestingly enough, here's a U-boat 60 miles off the coast of New Jersey, and we didn't know about it. And nobody knew about it until the late 1990s when these guys discovered this wreck. And they don't know what U-boat it is, so they have to go back and try to figure it out. And they're looking through all these naval archives, and they go to Germany and they look through the archives there, and they're looking through all the different U-boats and figuring out where they were built and the different structures, the superstructure and the torpedo tubes, and how the how the U-boats were made and what kind of systems they had on them. So that was just like, I was just nerding out heavily on that. That was just super cool. But as they figure it out, you're like right there with them. You're down scuba diving with them. You're in Germany and in the Naval Archives digging through all this stuff. And it's very suspenseful, which was cool. The other side of the story is the personal story of the two main guys who are the divers. There were some really harrowing situations that occurred during these dives. No spoilers, but just like, whoa, like really heavy duty, kind of tragic, very difficult situations that these men had to deal with while scuba diving down there on this wreck, because it's dangerous. And then also the remains of the crew are there on the submarine. So we'll leave it at that. Pretty harrowing stuff. But then all the time and energy that they had to spend like researching this and trying to figure it out, because they had been bitten by the bug. There was no way that they could just walk away from this. They were determined to figure out what sub this was, and they took a lot of personal time and money and energy of their own, and it had an emotional tax on them. Both of them had pretty serious kind of breakdowns in their personal lives while they were pursuing this mystery. And that was a part of the story that I could relate with. I thought was really interesting and was written very well. So to wrap this up, I guess one thing I would say is the author, Robert Kurson, has got a wealth of great material to work with here. And he does an awesome job researching it and documenting it. And it's not written like a textbook or a boring history book. It's really like very excitingly written. And it kind of goes chronological in order from when the wreck was discovered up until now. But then you have these flashbacks to World War II and to Germany and the German crew. And the technology of scuba diving is worked in, and the technology of the U-boats is also worked in pretty heavily. So great book. As I said, clearly one of the top 5 best sea stories on my list, mainly because it's nonfiction. It's a totally true story. It's salty as hell. I mean, it's just got sailors and scuba divers and ships and submarines in there like you can't believe, which is, from my point of view, is just awesome, right? And then also really well written, just very, very well written story. The kind of book that, I start reading and like 3 days later, I'm almost done because I'm like, wow. So there's a little bonus at the end too. I would recommend that you read the book first and then go on YouTube and search around, because there's some great videos where they interview these two divers, John Chatterton and Richie Kohler. They interview them and they're out there on the boat with them, and they actually get some footage of these guys underwater scuba diving, and they tell a little bit of the story. I think it was like on the Discovery Channel or something, one of those kind of History Channel documentaries. And then the book itself is good because it has some really good drawings of the submarine, the structure of the submarine and how it's laid out. And then there's a lot of good pictures too in the book that show you like, some of the artifacts they brought up, and it shows you pictures of the main characters and like, some of their scuba gear, which is kind of cool. So yeah, highly recommended. Shadow Divers by Robert Kurson. And thanks for watching the Sea Stories and Science Fiction YouTube channel here. I would also encourage you to connect with me. I'm at Sea Stories and Science Fiction on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. Also, I am doing a podcast. If you like this sort of sea stories and science fiction, I do a podcast. It's on all of the podcast apps. Podcasts are so easy to get to now. There must be 20 different places on the internet. You just go there, click a button, boom, it starts to play. So check me out. It's called the Sea Stories and Science Fiction Podcast. And every week I'm putting out multiple original sea stories and science fiction that I've written myself, as well as classic sea stories and science fiction. So a lot of great entertaining listening for you on there. And thanks for watching. I'm Malcolm Torres, and we'll see you next time.